Ding! A crisp chime echoed through Chu Tiannan's mind. His eyes snapped open. He lay sprawled on a bed, drenched in cold sweat, his chest heaving as if he had just escaped a nightmare. His surroundings were unfamiliar. Pale walls, strange furniture, the scent of sterile linen. Am I alive? Confused, he slowly sat up, his limbs trembling. His last memory was of a desperate breakthrough attempt, a final gamble to ascend. He had prepared everything, resources, formations, even his will. But he had still failed. Why? Why me? Bitterness welled up inside him. I was the lord of the demon dragon. I reigned supreme over the origin continent. Why was I the one who fell? Grief, anger, disbelief, all of it churned in his heart like a storm. His fingers clenched the bedsheet, knuckles white, but his body felt frail, too frail. Ding! The sound came again, sharp and clear in his skull. Startled, Chu Tiannan looked around. There was no bell, no device nearby. His gaze dropped to his own body, and his frown deepened. This body wasn't his. Not really. It was human, ordinary, weak. Not the immortal vessel of a demon dragon lord, but something that could be shattered with a flick of the finger. And yet, it held his name. Chu Tiannan. The memories came like whispers, weaving together two lives. He pressed a palm to his forehead, sorting through the disarray of thoughts. So this body's previous owner was also called Chu Tiannan. A coincidence? No, this wasn't a possession. It wasn't necromancy. This was rebirth. His soul had merged with this other Chu Tiannan, one from a completely different world. Earth, not the vast and diverse origin continent, where bloodlines clashed and beasts ruled. Here, humanity reigned, a single race, weak in body, but gifted with unmatched intellect. They had forged a terrifying power, hot weapons, machines of war capable of slaying even mighty beasts. But this earth is no longer as it once was, he realized, scanning the memories. Not long ago, 3 colossal pillars had descended from the sky, piercing the oceans and heralding the apocalypse. And from that moment, everything changed. Beasts mutated, evolving into monstrous creatures of horror. Civilization crumbled, cities burned, and humanity fought for survival. These creatures were called monsters. So, this world is Earth, Chu Tiannan whispered. And then his black pupils shifted, morphing into shimmering stars. My fall, it wasn't a coincidence, he thought grimly. Someone sabotaged me. There were only a few people who could have orchestrated it. My closest companions, even another demon dragon lord. Before he could finish his thought, a deep vibration shook the room. Boom! A thunderous explosion roared outside. The ground quaked, walls cracked. Chu Tiannan was thrown across the room and slammed into the wall with a grunt. Pain racked his fragile new body. What the hell was that? He staggered to his feet, limping toward the door. He barely managed to pry it open, and then froze. Outside the window, staring directly at him, was a pair of cold, savage eyes. Not human, not sane, a monster. The East China-based city, once hailed as one of the 10 great strongholds of the China Alliance, had become a nightmarish battlefield. Once a bastion of safety, it was now a hunting ground for monsters. Shit. Cold sweat trickled down Chu Tiannan's face as he locked eyes with a creature just beyond the window. Its glowing green irises burned with hunger. Then, without warning, a gust of rancid wind blasted through the air as the beast, clinging impossibly to the vertical exterior wall, lunged forward. Crash! Glass exploded. A blur of motion followed. A massive creature burst into the room. A giant purple wildcat with matted fur and a grotesque, twin-jawed mouth. Its cloudy, soulless eyes radiated bloodlust. Slime dripped from its razor-like fangs, and the stench rolling off its body made Chu Tiannan gag. His mind raced, instantly identifying it from this world's fragmented memories. Purple Shadow Cat. A junior-level beast soldier. Monsters like these had wiped out cities. The only ones who could match them were mutated Tianzhu warriors, humans enhanced by unknown power. But Chu Tiannan was not a warrior. Not yet. The cat vanished in an instant, No sound, no blur, just gone. Where is it? Frantically, Chu Tiannan scanned the room, heart pounding. A pungent stench suddenly hit his nostrils, and his eyes widened in horror. A single blood-stained claw was already inches from his face. Too fast. Too close. Ding. Everything stopped. Time froze. The claw hovered less than a centimeter from his nose, frozen mid-swipe. The stench lingered in the air, unmoving. The room, tilted from the earlier shock, had been mid-collapse, but now water spilled from an overturned cup and hung motionless in the air like a warped crystal. Then a calm, synthetic voice rang in his mind. Devouring system initializing. Host confirmed. Danger confirmed. Bonus experience mode activated. Would you like to enable the system? What the hell? Chu Tiannan blinked, stunned. The voice was emotionless, mechanical, and came from within his own mind. Activate now. Another prompt. For a brief moment, confusion clouded his thoughts. But then something within him clicked. Years of survival, of fighting atop the food chain in the origin continent, awakened. He was no longer the demon dragon lord, but neither was he just a powerless human anymore. He wasn't alone. This system, whatever it was his only shot. You have 10 seconds to decide. After 10 seconds, time and space will resume. 10, 9, 8. From the corner of his eye, Chu Tiannan watched as dust hung, suspended midair. Glass shards shimmered like frozen stars. The monster's claw waited to end him the moment reality resumed. He didn't hesitate. Activate. His voice was steady, determined. Back in the origin continent, he had ruled through strength and decisiveness. Hesitation meant death. And now, more than ever, that instinct surged to the surface. Bonus experience mode active. System initialization in 3, 2, and as the countdown ticked away, Chu Tiannan stood tall. Calm. His starry pupils stared at the still beast before him. Despite the danger, a spark of anticipation danced in his gaze. Let's see what you can do, devouring system. Come, show me your power.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
When the countdown reached 0, he moved his fingers. The purple shadow cat also charged towards him immediately. What should I do? He suddenly realized that there seemed to be something extra in his hand. His eyes flashed, and before he had time to think, he blocked that thing at the front door. This movement was smooth, and in the dark, Chu Tiannan even felt that his whole body was full of strength, as if he was in the origin continent. Even if the physical strength is gone, it seems that the soul is still strong. He thought to himself, Zheng. There was a sound of metal and iron colliding, and because of the huge impact, Chu Tiannan took a few steps back slightly, and when he took a closer look, he found that there was actually a dark gold long sword in his hand. The body of the sword is simple and unsophisticated, half gold and half black, engraved with countless secret lines, weird and full of coercion. The purple shadow cat was blocked by the sudden dark golden long sword, and immediately backed up, smashing straight into the wall. Roar! It stared at the delicious food in front of it, and immediately moved its feet and rushed up again. Seeing it rushing again, Chu Tiannan immediately waved the long sword in his hand. The moment he swung it, he saw a wave of golden light strafing away from the long sword. At this time, the purple shadow cat in the midair had already sensed the great pressure brought by the dark golden long sword, which made it roar in the air. But animals are animals after all, and it has no the meaning of retreat. Chu Tiannan's eyes flashed, and the hand holding the long sword trembled slightly. The secret lines on the dark golden long sword suddenly twisted, as if alive, and as the golden light turned into a giant golden net in the air, wrapped the shocking purple shadow cat in it. Only then did Zingmo realize the crisis of life and death, and immediately ride nonstop, but it was too late. A burst of blood rained down suddenly. Looking at the purple shadow cat that was killed by one blow, Chu Tiannan breathed a sigh of relief. Successfully killed the junior beast soldier purple shadow cat, and get the devouring reward, granting experience with the divine weapon, Tiannan's sword. The cold voice sounded from his mind again. He couldn't think about it just now, but now that he calmed down, Chu Tiannan realized that even though he was a human being in 2 lifetimes, no matter where his memory was, there was no information about this devouring system. It's a system, but what is a system? The long sword changed abruptly and suddenly trembled violently. Chu Tiannan's face changed slightly, and he saw the dark golden long sword flashing golden light and transformed into an unknown giant beast, devouring the bloody purple shadow cat in front of him. Purple Shadow Cat, the devouring bee soldier. The host is an advanced junior warrior. The Tiannan sword is too demanding to use and cannot be activated. Please use the swallowing function to increase the warrior's level. Survival mission. Please arrive at a safe base city. Pay attention to the expiration time of the magic weapon. Good luck to the host. That's it. Chu Tiannan looked at the dark golden long sword in his hand and fell into deep thought. Originally, he was just an ordinary person, but now he has the possibility of practicing to become a warrior. This devouring system is really a treasure. There was fire in Chu Tiannan's eyes. As long as he continues to advance like this, he will have the power to return to the continent of origin sooner or later. Thinking of this, he looked out the window, silently put away his long sword, feeling the strong wind blowing head-on. Chu Tiannan felt the blood in his body gradually boiling. Earth, I am Chu Tiannan. Coming. A total of 3 low-level bee soldiers were devoured, and none of them were upgraded. It seems that the promotion of this warrior's level is not as simple as I imagined. Chu Tiannan walked out of the corridor, shook off the blood on his hands, and muttered to himself. This is of course not his blood, but other monsters. He suddenly widened his eyes. This is what kind of purgatory on Earth? The scale of this square can be vaguely seen, but now the sky is blood-colored, the ground is blood-colored, and piles of dead bones are piled up into a mountain of corpses. Sticky black plasma seeps out of the mountain of corpses, surrounded by flies. The smelly wind was humming, and the ruined walls in the distance still had faint flames and rising dust. In the dark sky, the only sound was the roar of the building collapsing. Wow! A crow with blood-colored eyes spread its wings and flew high, its black feathers mixed with blood, flying into the air. Boom, 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 boom. Chu Tiannan's heart was beating like thunder, and his heart had not been calm for a long time. It originated from the chaos and strife in the mainland, but as a monster dragon powerhouse, he had never experienced such massacre. Yes, this is a unilateral massacre, a bloody slaughter like a meat grinder. He couldn't help but staggered his eyes and felt a sense of sadness and desolation that was indescribable in words. If I didn't devour the system, I'm afraid I would become an ordinary wreck on the ground. Chu Tiannan frowned suddenly, his eyes fixed on a wreck not far away. The wreckage's body was almost complete, half kneeling in front of the pile of corpses, giving him a strange feeling. After the fight, just now, Chu Tiannan also found that although his physical body was weak, his soul strength was stronger than that of Origin Continent, and he also developed the ability to detect. Oh, he didn't doubt it, walked over cautiously, and suddenly found a strangely shaped wristwatch on the corpse's wrist. This is a warrior. Chu Tiannan was taken aback and bowed towards the corpse. The martial artist who died generously in front of the crowd deserved his respect. Then he took off the watch. Can't check. He was a little disappointed. The warrior watch can be located and checked, but obviously he is not a warrior and cannot use the second authority. Forget it. It's good to be able to locate it. There is still a third of the distance from the border of the East China Bay city. I have to hurry up. Chu Tiannan packed up the warrior's belongings, went into a clothing store beside him, changed into a solid black outfit, tied the Tiannan sword with cloth strips, and started to move towards the edge of the city. Because of the baptism of the blood-colored corpses, Chu Tiannan was already a little numb when walking through the city, but the more he saw, the more he longed to see living people. Finally, he stopped in front of the empty Biling Park, and he could see the road outside the city from a distance. Crossing here is the shortest way to leave, but Looking at the empty park with a few wreckages here and there, Chu Tiannan hesitated for a moment. There's no cover. Passing here is equivalent to being exposed to monsters. No, you can't hesitate. This is the fastest way. If you make a detour, the danger will multiply. Forget it, let's go. Having made a decision, Chu Tiannan drew out the Yintian sword and took advantage of the dark sky to quickly walk across the square. Dong dong. Because of the emptiness, it seems that the sound of the heartbeat is infinitely amplified. Call. A deep exhalation sound came from the front. Chu Tiannan's expression changed abruptly, and he immediately prostrated himself on the ground. But it was already too late. In the darkness, a pair of blood-red eyes opened suddenly. A wall stood up abruptly. Call. The unique grunting sound of wild beasts resounded in the square, making the surroundings seem dead silent. The monster's heavy claws stepped on the floor of the square and also stepped on Chu Tiannan's heart. Call. The huge beast head was not far in front of Chu Tiannan, and he secretly groaned in his heart, wondering why there were no wild beasts around, so there was such a big guy here. The black figure had a long and narrow mouth, and the fangs on the herringbone mouth were uneven. The four giant teeth were like giant blades flashing coldly, and the stinky saliva dripped on the ground, making a piercing hissing sound. At this moment, the moon pierced through the dark clouds and cast a bright light. The shadowy figure was suddenly exposed under the moonlight. Chu Tiannan's heart suddenly rose. He clenched the dark gold long sword tightly, swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. This is the high-level beast soldier, the blood-eyed demon wolf. He was still able to take advantage of the weapon against the low-level beast soldiers. How could he win now that his opponent has passed 2 levels in a row? Maybe it didn't find itself? The demon wolf's gaze fluttered, and it slowly walked past the place where Chu Tiannan was. Call. He was relieved. The demon wolf turned around, kicked its hind legs suddenly, and shot towards him violently. This beast can actually use tricks. Chu Tiannan was sweating profusely and immediately rolled over. The long and narrow wolf's mouth made a violent clenching sound beside him, and the stench came to his nostrils. Chu Tiannan didn't have time to think about it. He almost subconsciously raised the Yintian sword and stabbed fiercely at the wolf's eyes. Puff! After a successful blow, the wolf demon let out an earth-shattering roar. It was extremely angry, and its panting became hasty. The huge wolf claws came suddenly through the wind. The Yintian sword was still stuck in the eye socket of the wolf demon, and he couldn't pull it out at all. Now the wolf claws attacked in extremely fast speed, and it had already become an afterimage in the air, and he couldn't dodge it. Yin Tianjian. Swallow. At the time of life and death, Chu Tiannan yelled, and saw that although the Yintian sword was a bit reluctant, it was still shining golden, and the wolf paw paused. But enough is enough. Chu Tiannan was a carp, and immediately took advantage of the opportunity to pull out the Yintian sword. The Yintian sword seemed to be affected by being forced to move, and its color dimmed a bit. The demon wolf was severely wounded and staggered, followed by extreme anger. The muddy saliva in its mouth mixed with the black blood from the wound rolled down to the ground, making a trembling sound. Because of the extreme anger, the demon wolf, there was a whistling sound immediately. Ow! It raised its front paws and came to bite viciously. That movement was far beyond the previous swiftness, and it was vaguely invisible. In the nick of time, Chu Tiannan suddenly noticed the movement trajectory of the demon wolf. He was also a little surprised. He didn't expect his soul strength to reach this level. But even if he saw it clearly, he couldn't change the fate of being bitten because he couldn't react at all. Come! That foul-smelling giant mouth was coming towards him. Boom! After a loud bang, everything returned to silence. The figure of the monster wolf had completely covered Chu Tiannan, and Chu Tiannan did not know whether he was alive or dead. For a long time, this thing is really heavy. Chu Tiannan struggled to get out from under the demon wolf, and secretly rejoiced that he had picked up the warrior's sniper rifle. So he threw away the sniper rifle in his hand and picked up the Yin Tian sword. Swallow. The wolf figure disappeared immediately. It's not bad to be an intermediate warrior, but I didn't expect it to be so difficult to advance. He glanced at the battlefield again, knowing that this place is not suitable for staying for a long time. So he quickly rushed towards the distant road. That smear of black clothes, wrapped in a bloody storm, quickly disappeared into the long mountain road. Roar. In the mountains and forests, the low roars of monsters can be heard from time to time, as long as it is not within the base city. Almost all monsters' paradise. Boom! A young figure held a fat shadow mouse, fell heavily to the side, and used the dark gold long sword in his hand to devour it directly. It seems that if I want to reach the level of a high-level warrior, I probably have to continue devouring high-level bee soldiers. The black-clothed youth pondered, because he felt that his own strength had not been improved much. Obviously, this devouring system can continuously devour and improve my strength, but for weak monsters, the effect after devouring will become smaller and smaller, unless a large number of devouring them. After several days of constant killing and devouring in the forest, Chu Tiannan was obviously more adapted to the current life than before. With a strong soul power, he could easily avoid the powerful monsters. After these days of rushing and devouring low-level monsters, Chu Tiannan has reached the peak level of an intermediate warrior. But for some reason, Chu Tiannan found that no matter whether he devoured mid-level bee soldiers or low-level bee soldiers, he still hadn't broken through that layer of shackles. It seems that this devouring system also has shortcomings. If I want to upgrade my level, I must devour monsters stronger than me. Carrying the Yin Tian sword behind his back again, his eyes scanned the surroundings, and then his eyes froze, and a gleam of light radiated from them, because he spotted a beautiful figure moving fast on the road below. Looking at the opponent's agile speed and the burst of strength under his feet, it is obvious that he is a warrior. After so many days, I finally met a fellow human being. Chu Tiannan said with a smile, and was about to make a move when he was surprised to find out. Behind Qianying, there were actually 4 monster wolves chasing and killing her crazily. Alone, provoke for demon wolves? Could it be a martial artist? Warrior is the lowest level, just like an entry level, like a beast soldier of a monster. A martial artist, on the other hand, is a more powerful warrior. In terms of combat power, a martial artist's fighting power is even more terrifying, and he can easily kill any beast soldier in seconds. Comparing a martial artist to a martial artist is like a fluorescent light compared to a bright moon. Not on a level at all. At first, Chu Tiannan was planning to go to say hello, but when he saw the 4 demon wolves, he stopped in his tracks. Although I have the strength to fight head-on with demon wolves now, but the 4 demon wolves. Reason told Chu Tiannan that he couldn't provoke them at all, but he found that the hunted humans. It turned out to be a girl. Roar. As if chasing a prey toy, the 4 demon wolves roared excitedly, looking at the yellow-clothed figure running away in front of them. They'd been chasing each other for half an hour. But he didn't cull them immediately. What he wanted was to make the opponent despair. Oomph. The girl who kept running away snorted coldly. She knew that running away was not the way to go. Human physical energy could not be consumed by monsters. She actually stopped. Seeing the girl in yellow who was hunted down, standing on the roof of a car, Chu Tiannan was stunned, and then frowned slightly. Is she going to fight recklessly? From a moment when the girl was hunted down, Chu Tiannan understood that the former did not have the rank of a martial artist at all. Otherwise, it would be those 4 demon wolves who ran away. Whoosh! Seeing the opponent stop, one of the 4 demon wolves stepped forward slowly, seeming to lose patience. So they swiftly and fiercely slaughtered with a startling growl. Puff! However, the bloody scene was unavoidable, but the person who fell was not the girl in yellow who was hunted down before, but the wolf who came up first. Boom! The body of the first demon wolf was cut into 2 in an instant, and its death was unclear. It may not understand how it was killed until its death. A scarlet light condensed, and at this moment, the girl in yellow held a huge sword that was out of proportion to herself and looked coldly at the 3 demon wolves in front of her. Roar! The three demon wolves roared in a low voice, but they were a little afraid of the giant sword that suddenly appeared in the opponent's hand. This, to say that Chu Tiannan was the most shocked, because he found that the girl was holding a pitch-black sword hilt in her hand. And on the hilt, it looks like a scarlet giant sword condensed from energy at first glance. The giant sword and the girl are out of proportion, but even so, Chu Tiannan could tell that the other party didn't seem to be struggling. It turned out to be a giant lightsaber. It seems that this girl has an unusual background. Chu Tiannan was able to quickly identify the weapon in the girl's hand from his memory alone. A lightsaber is the pinnacle of hot weapons, and the cost of a lightsaber is simply beyond the reach of ordinary people. Generally, only the children of big families or powerful warriors can own it. Quickly beheaded a defenseless wolf, but at this moment the girl in yellow furrowed her brows. Obviously, the blow just now had consumed most of her strength. It seems that there are powerful weapons, and there will be certain restrictions when using them. Roar, seeming to have discovered the clue, the remaining three demon wolves roared excitedly. This time, they did not fight alone. Instead, he chose to surround the opponent from three directions. Although the beast-level monsters do not possess intelligence, the wildness and unity of wolves are born with it. Roar! Without any hesitation, the three demon wolves attacked the girl holding the huge sword from three directions with swiftness and ferocity. The situation is not optimistic. Chu Tiannan couldn't help exclaiming when he saw this. Roar! Obviously, the three demon wolves would not underestimate the girl in yellow. They planned to attack and kill from three directions at the same time. Facing the frantic slaughter of the monster wolf, the girl in yellow looked cold and swung the huge sword again. As expected of a descendant with a strong background, I can't even be so calm when facing three demon wolves. Even in the face of danger, the girl was still able to deal with it calmly, which made Chu Tiannan couldn't help but secretly nodded. Puff! Blood burst out with the sweep of the giant sword. The girl in yellow locked on to one of the monster wolves and beheaded directly. The monster wolf, whose body was turned into two sections, screamed for a few seconds before dying in pain. A monster wolf was dealt with neatly, but that didn't mean the crisis was over. Roar! Finding his second companion also died tragically by the girl's sword. The other two monster wolves let out a heart-pounding roar, violently charged and bitten away. Kaka, the girl in yellow held a huge sword in front of her body, and a demon wolf bit the blade without any scruples, making an ear-piercing sound. Similarly, the other wolf took advantage of the girl's lack of speed to dodge and ruthlessly rushed towards it. No, that girl can't hold on anymore. Seeing this, Chu Tiannan frowned slightly, and he could feel some powerful monsters in the distance advancing along with the smell of blood. Chu Tiannan didn't want to go into this muddy water. He knew that time was running out, and he had to make a choice. When Chu Tiannan glanced down, the injured girl was still clenching her teeth, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. At this time, the girl saw two demon wolves approaching again excitedly, and wanted to resist, but found that she couldn't swing the giant sword in her hand at all. In those crystal-clear eyes, there was a trace of despair and unwillingness. Puff, puff! At this extremely urgent moment, the girl in yellow was even ready to face death. After closing her eyes, she opened them in doubt. What came into view was not the ferocious monster, but a skinny figure of Sunspot, holding a dark gold long sword. The black-clothed figure is slender, and beside him lie two demon wolves who are dying. Oh, my heart is too soft. Seeing the two demon wolves being attacked to death, Chu Tiannan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Just now, he struggled for a long time. To save people, he might encounter many or even stronger monsters, and even take his own life. However, what Chu Tiannan couldn't bear the most was that when he saw the unwillingness and pity in the eyes of the girl in yellow, he finally chose to rescue her. After devouring the two demon wolves, feeling that his own strength has successfully advanced to the rank of high-level warrior, the corners of the young man's mouth curled up. Cough, cough. Seriously injured by a monster, the girl in yellow coughed violently. After the crisis, her tight strings relaxed a bit, and her body became heavy. Relax, there are monsters coming. I will take you out of here. Chu Tiannan didn't dare to delay. He quickly came to the girl and hugged her directly, but the girl was startled and struggled violently. Be honest, there's a group of monsters coming. If you make trouble again, you and I will die. Seeing this, Chu Tiannan gave a soft shout. Humph! Hearing this, the girl was really stunned by Chu Tiannan's voice. Her bright eyes flashed a cold light, but she also calmed down and stopped struggling. Because she knew that what the other party said was true, there were already no less than 10 light spots on the detector moving here quickly. If it is later, it is estimated that we will encounter it. At this time, Chu Tiannan didn't have the heart to feel the warm and fragrant nephrite in his arms. His eyes swept around like a sword's edge and then determined a direction. Gone fast. Just 5 minutes after the two left, a group of no fewer than 10 powerful aura demon wolves appeared here. Roar, roar! Seeing his clansmen being slaughtered, but finding that the murderer had already left, a group of monster wolves screamed and roared in anger, scaring the monsters who occasionally walked alone trembling. In the evening, night gradually approached, and the earth was once again gradually engulfed by darkness. Squeak! Pushing open the gate of a temple, Chu Tiannan carefully placed the girl in yellow on the wooden couch. Immediately, he arranged some feces of high-level monsters around the temple, which he got from the dead warriors before. The purpose is to disperse the low-level monsters. After finishing all the work, Chu Tiannan returned to the room, lit the bonfire immediately, and began to rest. It's really fate today. If it's a little later, I think it will be a big trouble. Chu Tiannan sighed, then glanced at the girl lying on the wooden couch, quickly walked out of the room, and came back after a while. It's just that there's an extra fat rabbit in his hand. It seems that even monsters are powerless. Chu Tiannan simply disposed of a red-eyed rabbit, which is a high-end ingredient, a luxury that only the rich can enjoy in restaurants. Noisy, noisy. The red-eyed rabbit who kept rummaging over the campfire turned golden yellow, and the sesame oil dripped on the campfire, giving off a sizzling aroma. While Chu Tiannan was roasting the red-eyed rabbit, he did not forget to glance at the girl on the wooden couch, but he was startled. At this time, the girl in yellow was not as cold as before, but had those slightly expectant eyes, staring straight at the barbecue in Chu Tiannan's hand. She was a child. Seeing this, Chu Tiannan shook his head and smiled. As an old monster whose soul did not know how long to live, he did not expect that he would actually soften his heart. If this was in the past, he would ask himself that he is not a good old man. Seeing that the barbecue was almost done, Chu Tiannan tore off a large piece of rabbit leg meat, handed it to the girl in yellow, and said with a smile, "Here, be hungry, eat some." Before the bonfire, facing the golden yellow rabbit leg meat, the girl in yellow didn't pick it up immediately, but looked warily at the young man in black who had never been masked before. Obviously, there is some doubt about the identity of the other party. After all, in this wilderness, a girl's family naturally has to be extremely vigilant. Aren't you hungry? Seeing this, Chu Tiannan frowned, then shook his head and smiled. Could it be suspected of poisoning? If you don't eat it, you'll be cold. Saying that, Chu Tiannan didn't move his hand back. Instead, he randomly tore off a piece of rabbit meat with his other hand and began to eat it with relish. Well, it tastes good, but it's a bit bland. The look of enjoyment on his face seemed to say, I've already spoken. It's not poisonous. Thank you. The next second, the girl in yellow felt the protest from her abdomen and couldn't help but take the rabbit leg meat. With a soft and pleasant voice, she quickly ate it. Looks like I'm starving. Seeing the girl gulping down without even thinking about it, Chu Tiannan smiled slightly, then handed the bottle of water on his body to the other side, and then put down the remaining half of the roasted rabbit. Why are you going? Seeing the young man standing up, the girl couldn't help but said, This room is too small. You should stay here. I'll go outside and watch the night. Standing up, Chu Tiannan stretched his waist and said, The high-intensity escape for many days also made him need a lot of rest to recover. The trauma on your body is not light. Rest well, No monsters will appear here tonight. After finishing speaking, just as Chu Tiannan was about to leave the room, he found a cold light rushing towards him suddenly. Being born with a strong sense of soul, he naturally quickly caught the cold light. Chu Tiannan fixed his eyes and said in doubt, "What's this?" "Recovery potion. If you don't worry about me being poisoned, just drink it. It will be good for your recovery. And you're also injured." I have to say that the girl's voice is very nice, but there is still more or less indifference in the soft words. Or maybe she was just born that way. Simply looking at the potion in his hand, although Chu Tiannan is not from this world, he quickly understood it through the electronic equipment left by the dead warriors. Recovery Agent is the best supplement for warriors in the wild. It can heal injuries and restore physical strength, but the price is also scary expensive. The better the recovery agent is, the price will increase exponentially. Without any hesitation, Chu Tiannan drank it directly, feeling the warm benefits gradually coming from his body, and walked out of the room. Rest well, I will keep watch. After all, he has the devouring system. If there is a crisis for the host, the system will not provide any help, but the reminder can still be done. Seeing that the other party closed the door, leaving the girl in yellow alone, the room was quiet, only the slight sizzling sound of the bonfire from time to time. The girl looked at the door in silence. Those bright eyes that were originally cautious and a little indifferent disappeared in the next second, and a special light flashed by, especially when she saw that Chu Tiannan drank the recovery that she had given without any hesitation. Potion. In the early morning, a ray of local sunlight shone on the black-clothed figure on the roof, and the young man suddenly opened those deep, dark eyes. Standing up, feeling full of strength, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly for a moment. The effect of this girl's recovery potion is really extraordinary. The trauma she suffered for the first time with the demon wolf has completely recovered. As he said that, Chu Tiannan punched out in the air, and then there was a low sound of breaking wind. He believed that if this punch hit the monster wolf, although it couldn't kill it, it would be more than enough to injure it. Advanced warrior. Sensing his own martial artist level, Chu Tiannan murmured at the corner of his mouth and gradually clenched his fists. Although he was still far away from his goal, being able to cultivate at least meant hope. I must not die without knowing why. One day I will go back there and find out. Squeak. The door of the room opened, and a beautiful figure in yellow clothes walked out gently. Seeing this, Chu Tiannan jumped off the roof. Looking at the person in front of him who was only half a head shorter than himself, he couldn't help but marvel in his heart. So beautiful. Due to the urgency of the incident yesterday, and the fact that it was already dark in a safe place, Chu Tiannan did not have time to see the other party's face. Seeing him at this moment, even Chu Tiannan, whose soul had lived for an unknown amount of time, couldn't help admiring. A beautiful face that is so impeccable that countless girls would be jealous. Especially those bright eyes that are as crystal as jewels contain hidden traces of light, which is soul-stirring. The light yellow top showed its graceful curves to the fullest, and the slender and round thighs were hidden in the skirt, only showing below the knees. To sum it up, this girl is simply a disaster. She is not yet an adult. Once you're an adult, what's the deal? Healed all overnight. Seeing that the other party's breath had stabilized and no injuries could be seen, Chu Tiannan couldn't help laughing and sighed in his heart that it was good to have money. Even the recovery agent he bought was quite high-end. He checked it briefly yesterday and was shocked. My own sip is a B-level recovery potion, and the price can be 100 million Earth coins. And the level of the recovery agent is destined to mean the strength of its recovery effect. Ordinary warriors can't afford B-level recovery potions at all. At most H levels that cost thousands of dollars, and even F levels that cost tens of thousands of dollars are rare. Only a few wealthy geniuses are eligible to equip them, and even extremely, there are a few E-level recovery agents with tens of thousands of yuan. As for the D-level recovery agent with a price of 10 yuan, or even the C-level recovery agent with a price of several 10 yuan, it's just drinking money. Thank you for saving me yesterday, the girl said softly, without any indifference at all. I'm on the way too, that one. Before Chu Tiannan finished speaking, the atmosphere suddenly changed in the next second, and the red light of the sword's edge passed by, and it swept towards him fiercely. Facing the sudden sword light, Chu Tiannan never expected such a situation. His strong desire to survive made him move as fast as possible. The figure appeared a few meters away and said angrily, "What do you mean?" No wonder Chu Tiannan was not angry, because it was the beautiful girl in front of him who drew the sword. No matter what, Chu Tiannan never thought that he saved the opponent, but at this moment, he wanted his own life. If he was too slow to dodge the sword just now, the consequences could be disastrous. Surprisingly, I dodged it, realizing that Chu Tiannan quickly dodged his sword at close range. The sword-wielding girl let out a light sigh. Obviously, he didn't expect the opponent to dodge at such a close range. "Answer me." Seeing that the girl holding the giant sword did not speak, Chu Tiannan said angrily. However, the answer to him was a sword of red light. Clang! In the next second, due to the violent collision of the two weapons, violent winds were generated around, and the fallen leaves on the ground were swept away. Holding the Yintian sword in his hand, Chu Tiannan was at loggerheads with the opponent. At the same time, he was angry at why the opponent suddenly killed him, and secretly helpless. I obviously saved the other party. Without him, this beautiful girl would have died in the mouth of those monster wolves long ago. Hard. It actually blocked it. On the contrary, the sword-wielding girl was secretly surprised, but she knew how powerful her sword was. Even senior warriors dare not take it easily, but Chu Tiannan doesn't seem to be struggling at all. Laugh, laugh. The lightsaber slashed across the Yintian sword and made an ear-piercing sound of piercing the wind. It was about to slash through Chu Tiannan's neck. The latter took advantage of his strength to retreat. His feet instantly exerted force to move forward, and his backhand was a sword. Clang! Yin Tianbing exuded a faint sword glow, bursting out with dark force. Chu Tiannan pushed the giant sword girl horizontally with a sword, and the two attacked in 2 simple rounds. It turned out to be a split. Inside the temple, it was quiet, with only the sparseness of fallen leaves swept by the breeze. "Why did you kill me?" Seeing that the other party didn't make a move immediately, Chu Tiannan forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a deep voice. At this moment, Chu Tiannan only wanted a reason. After all, he didn't have the treasure that the other party coveted at all, so killing him didn't make sense at all. Hearing this, the jewel-like bright eyes of the sword-wielding girl remained unmoved at all. Her long blonde hair was caressed by the wind, and she held a huge sword that was about the same height as her, and said softly, "You saved me. I have to kill you. What's your reason?" Chu Tiannan rolled his eyes. He didn't expect the other party to say it so bluntly. There is simply no room for white. Then I'll change the reason. At this time, the sword-wielding girl Lu Mei frowned slightly, and she actually started thinking seriously, which made Chu Tiannan look at the sky speechlessly. "I killed you because I have to devote myself to the way of a warrior. If you are alive, it will interfere with my heart and make me miss you all the time. You are dead, although I will be sad for a while, but I don't need to think of you every day." Facing the girl's serious reason, Chu Tiannan's eyes widened, and he finally couldn't help roaring. "Are you sick?" In the quiet temple, because of Chu Tiannan's roar, the low roar of monsters appeared in the distance around him. "A monster is coming." Chu Tiannan, holding the Yintian sword, noticed the alarm on the detector and said coldly, "Since you're fine, let's go our separate ways. If you give me a high-level recovery potion, it will be even out." As he said that, the young man in black wanted to leave, but the red light of the huge sword struck again, which completely angered Chu Tiannan. "Don't go too far. I don't want to fight with you." Yin Tianjian resisted the situation. Chu Tiannan confronted the opponent with all his strength. The two swords were evenly divided, and there was almost no difference in strength. Squeak, squeak. It seemed that there was a change in the temple, and a few low-level, beast-level shadow mice quickly sneaked into the temple. Naturally, they found 2 figures who were confronting each other. Learn. The shadow mouse discovered the human beings, and they were just about to summon their companions. Get out! The yellow-clothed girl yelled violently by using her high-level warrior strength, and her voice was so loud that she scared the weak monsters away in an instant. It's like saying, excuse me. When Chu Tiannan saw this, he was angry, and at the same time he couldn't laugh or cry. This ant was so cruel, it was really unforgiving. Even monsters are afraid of her. So let's just say how scary this girl is. I can't get entangled with her. I have to leave quickly. Chu Tiannan had made up his mind, and he didn't dare to delay, lest there would be a large number of monsters watching the wind. Once surrounded by monsters, it would be a disaster for Chu Tiannan, who only had high-level fighters. So, Chu Tiannan bounced off the opponent's giant lightsaber with an inch of gold, jumped onto the roof, looked at the girl who was about to chase down, and said, "Give up, you can't catch up with me." The mountain forest road leading to the base city of South China. This place was an important traffic road before the catastrophe period, but now it is deserted and many disabled vehicles are on the road instead. Bloodstains can be seen from time to time on the road. It is obvious that this place must have been besieged by a large number of monsters. Until now, there is still a small number of monsters wandering here, and some even regard this place as their own territory and refuse to leave. At that time, a black-clothed figure quickly and quietly shuttled through the forest next to the road. He didn't dare to drive on the road blatantly. This is a big taboo. Along this highway, we will reach the base city of South China in a few days. Chu Tiannan looked at the electronic detector on his wrist. This guy has many functions. At this time, he was using the function of the map, which was directly connected to the satellite detection, which was extremely accurate, but he had no way to log into the warrior system. Because in the warrior system, there is no such person as Chu Tiannan. Cautiously and swiftly came to a tree. Chu Tiannan's chest heaved slightly. The high-intensity escape for 10 consecutive days exhausted him a lot. Call out. Why is this guy so difficult? Seemingly hearing something, Chu Tiannan's face changed. He gritted his teeth and left quickly, feeling the wind under his feet. It's no wonder that Chu Tiannan ran away all the way, because the one who chased and killed him was not the so-called monster, but the girl he had saved. My name is Luo Air. I hope you can remember me after you die. This is what the sword-wielding girl said when she was chasing and killing Chu Tiannan. You must be sick, but what he got was a roar in Chu Tiannan's heart. For some reason, Luo Air, who was rescued, wanted to kill Chu Tiannan wholeheartedly, and the reason was quite strange. Kill you, so that I can devote myself to cultivation without thinking about you. For 10 days, Chu Tiannan could be said to be extremely tense, but whenever he slacked off, Luo Air would come quietly like a phantom, and every time the two met. It's an all-out battle. Gradually, Chu Tiannan lost his patience and began to attack, especially when he used the Yin-Tian sword to knock away the opponent's giant sword for the first time. But again, because of his soft heart, he did not strike. Not only that, the two can be said to have lost and won. Chu Tiannan also realized that Luo Air's talent is extremely strong, so he no longer entangled with each other. The two started a life of chasing and fleeing for 10 days. The two figures were one in front of the other, but the distance was getting closer and closer. Chu Tiannan was also surprised that the speed of the other party's pursuit was faster than he imagined. Seeing that the two will meet again, do you really think I dare not kill you? This time, Chu Tiannan was really cornered. He stopped holding the Yin-Tian sword and waited for Huang Yiqining to catch up with the sword. Why don't you run away? Luo Air looked at Chu Tiannan, who was full of anger in front of him, and asked softly, I can catch up. Don't let me. Chu Tiannan was speechless, raised his hand, and swung his sword. This was the first time he took the initiative to strike since he met Luo Air. Clang! Facing the sword edge that could cut off high-level B soldiers in an instant, Luo Air held a giant lightsaber without any timidity. He held the sword instead to resist. Sparks flew, but was repelled by force. In the girl's jewel-like eyes, there is a piercing light. 10 days. You have become stronger again. It's not thanks to you. Chu Tiannan roared speechlessly in his heart. His 10 days of high-intensity fighting made him step from a high-level martial artist to the top, seeing that it is only a matter of time before he becomes an advanced martial artist. Speaking of it, it was the only benefit he got during the 10 unlucky days. You are qualified to let me use this trick. At that time, the huge sword in Luo'er's hand pierced repeatedly across the air, and suddenly red light enveloped the surroundings, and the surrounding airflow changed violently, as if sharp sword edges were pointing at Chu Tiannan. Faced with such a situation, it was the first time Chu Tiannan saw Luo'er erupting with such a tyrannical force. He wanted to retreat for a while, but found that he seemed to be enveloped by an invisible sword edge, so he could only use the Yantian sword in his hand to resist the opponent's continuous stabs in a panic. Clang, clang, clang. Chu Tiannan kept using the Yantian sword to resist the sword's edge in embarrassment. At this time, he was completely at a disadvantage. He originally thought that Luo'er's strength was about the same as his own. In fact, the opponent obviously didn't use all his strength. Call out. Chu Tiannan managed to resist all the sharp air currents and sword edges, and just about to stabilize his figure, he saw a red figure that was extremely fast, carrying a wisp of strong wind with swiftness. He slammed it in front of him. Because of the extreme stop, the giant lightsaber in Luo'er's hand was still trembling violently. As long as she exerted a little force, she could easily cut off the head of the young man in front of her. Alas, although he was surprised by Luo'er's sudden explosive power and unknown sword skills, Chu Tiannan knew that he had lost, and there was no suspense in losing. This is completely hanging. It's a bit embarrassing for a strong man of the previous generation to be hanged and beaten by a girl. You won, my life is yours, Chu Tiannan said complicatedly while slowly carrying the Yantian sword on his back. Although he was extremely unwilling in his heart, isn't he Chu Tiannan a person who is greedy for life and afraid of death? It's just that once he falls this time, he may be completely lost, and there's no hope of going back. It's a pity that he didn't die at the mouth of the mysterious beast, but died at the hands of the person he saved. Chu Tiannan laughed at himself, but he never regretted it. Even if it happened again, he would still choose to save people. The air at this time was so quiet that it was suffocating. Luo'er stared at the opponent with the giant sword in his hand, but did not move. Instead, Lu Mei frowned slightly, as if she was struggling with something. A cold snort made Chu Tiannan, who had closed his eyes and waited for death, open his doubtful eyes again. At the same time, Chu Tiannan saw a red light accompanied by a sharp edge, slashing fiercely, feeling bitter in his heart. Looks like the ending is doomed. Call. Facing the sweeping assassination of the huge sword, the strong blade disturbed the surrounding airflow, and Chu Tiannan's hair swayed with the strong wind. But he was not scared out of his wits because of life and death. After all, Chu Tiannan's soul was extremely powerful when he was about to embark on the road of the strong. He has already put life and death aside, although a bit extreme, but greedy for life and afraid of death. Will never become the strongest. All of this seemed to be slow, but in fact it was all within Chu Tiannan's thought, and in an instant he felt the sharp sword's edge suddenly stop in front of him again. The frenzied air current caused a shallow sword mark to appear on the ground behind the young man. It is obvious that as long as the giant sword is advanced by 1 point, Chu Tiannan's head will surely fall to the ground. But it didn't happen for a long time, which made Chu Tiannan puzzled for a while. So annoying. This time it was the sword-wielding girl Luo'er who spoke out. At this time, the girl Lu Mei frowned, as if she was struggling with something, but she did not swing the last sword for a long time. Chu Tiannan looked at the other party calmly, saying that he didn't want to die, that's for sure. But now the power of life and death is in the hands of Luo'er, and whether Chu Tiannan lives or dies is entirely up to him. However, the power she erupted at the end can crush me steadily. What exactly is it? What puzzled Chu Tiannan most at present was naturally Luo'er's strength. Obviously, they are all high-level fighters, but the power that erupts is one in the sky and the other in the ground. Naturally, Chu Tiannan was unhappy. It's a pity that my Yin Tian sword is still in the experienced state. Only the innate secret method can be devoured. If activated, it may be stronger. This is the thought in Chu Tiannan's heart at this time. The innate secret method devours. The innate secret method? Yup. For a moment, Chu Tiannan suddenly realized why Luo burst out with such an irresistible power. It must be a special skill like innate secret technique. If I can also have enough background, I can also learn more secret techniques and even more powerful warrior skills. But in his heart, he was secretly happy. Chu Tiannan knew whether he would be able to live or not. So he laughed at himself and didn't think about it anymore. Call out. In the next second, under Luo Erliu's brows, the light of the red giant sword disappeared, and only the black hilt in his slender white hand appeared. Obviously, Luo didn't want Chu Tiannan's life. Although he wondered whether this little ant would think it out, Chu Tiannan still chose to remain silent. In order not to talk too much and let others change their minds, it would be a joke. Although I really want to kill you, I can't do it, Luo said, very unhappy, looking at Chu Tiannan. Since I don't kill you, then from now on, you are mine. Your man? Then you'd better do it. Hearing this, the corners of Chu Tiannan's mouth twitched wildly, with a dignified look that made the girl grit her teeth. What international joke? Be her person. Doesn't that mean you have to suffer from a weird temper every day? Chu Tiannan sure can be killed, but not humiliated. You. Obviously, Luo didn't know what to say, so he just stared at Chu Tiannan fiercely, recalling that the other party had saved his life before, but he couldn't bring up the thought of killing at all. If it was 10 days ago, perhaps Luo would still firmly believe that he could kill the opponent. But it is because of these 10 days, the two are chasing after each other, and it can be said that each has its own outcome. Luo also understood that Chu Tiannan was also fully capable of killing him at that time, but he let him go in the end. All this seemed natural, but because of this, she unconsciously felt that Chu Tiannan's position in her heart was not that low. It's like an invisible silk network, which can run amok at the beginning, but once it gets deep into it. But I found that I couldn't break free at all. But it's not okay to let you go so easily. I defeated you only by fighting back. Luo's thoughtful appearance was so cute that even Chu Tiannan had to admit it. I really like to see each other's serious appearance. Then you will be my partner. After a while, Luo finally uttered such a sentence, and Chu Tiannan was astonished when he heard it. Partner? Yes. At this moment, Luo took a step forward. The distance between the two was extremely close, and Chu Tiannan, who had bright eyes, was a little uncomfortable and said seriously, I can trust you with my back. Can you make me trust you? Or can you trust me and give me your back? I promise, as long as I, Luo don't fall down, there will be an extremely firm shield behind you. Resist all swords and arrows for you. Can you also shield me from open swords and dark arrows? Faced with a burst of chatter, Chu Tiannan guessed everything, but he did not expect that this little girl, who looked only 16 or 17, would be able to say such a thing. Can I have any other choice? Chu Tiannan touched his nose and asked. The other option is to die. Then there is no choice. Chu Tiannan rolled his eyes inwardly, but looking at Luo's indifferent pair with a hint of anticipation, he sighed in his heart and stretched out his palm. What are you doing? Luo was puzzled. It's a high five. Do you want me to agree verbally? Chu Tiannan teased. It's better to swear by high five. You men are all big pigs. The second, when the two clapped their hands together to make an oath, no matter whether it was Chu Tiannan or Luo. The fate of the two is thus connected. After the high five, Luo also let go of her indifference towards Chu Tiannan, which was a kind of genuine treatment. And Chu Tiannan saw that the other party's attitude towards him had improved obviously. Without that cold killing intent, he was a little at a loss for a while. What? As if seeing the other party's incompatibility, Luo laughed for the first time and said, Do you want me to chase you down again? As he spoke, he poked Chu Tiannan's shoulder with the hilt of his sword. What responded to her was a burst of white eyes. Alarm! There is danger. The host evacuates. At that time, Chu Tiannan was shocked when he heard the system danger warning in his mind. Because only when you are about to enter a desperate situation, you will be reminded by the system. Call out. At the same time, Chu Tiannan also felt a tightness in his own soul. Without any hesitation, he directly stretched out his right hand to hug Luo'er's slender waist. While the latter exclaimed, the two suddenly rolled to one side. Boom! Almost at the same time, a black light flashed over where the two were originally, and a deep pit was stepped out on the ground. Chu Tiannan glanced over from the corner of his eye, and his pupils suddenly constricted. Earth-splitting bear. Luo'er was a little bit ashamed and angry before, thinking that the other party was trying to take advantage of her. But when she saw the huge figure staring at him not far away, she said in surprise, "Impossible! Why didn't I detect it?" As she said that, the girl looked at her bright wrist detector. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan also looked at the detector on his wrist at the same time, and the two looked at each other for a second. It turned out that the detectors in their hands were damaged in the previous battle of chasing each other. This is a low-level beast, general-level monster. We can't beat it, so we have to leave. Chu Tiannan stood up, holding the Yintian sword in front of him, and said in a deep voice, being able to ask the power fluctuations that suppressed his high-level martial artist is obviously a monster comparable to the level of a martial artist. The Earthbreaker's defense is astonishing. It is good at breaking the ground in combat. Don't let it get close. Luo'er came to Chu Tiannan's side. The black hilt was glowing red, and the blade of the giant lightsaber exuded scorching power. Hearing the other party's explanation, Chu Tiannan frowned slightly. Keep away? Both of them are melee warriors, and they can't get close. Doesn't that mean they can only escape passively? Not far in front of them, a big brown bear with a height of 2 floors looked coldly at Chu Tiannan and them. In the ferocious bear's eyes, a bloodthirsty and cruel color flashed, and it opened its mouth with stinky teeth. It seems to be announcing that the two belong to its hunting meal. What a big appetite. It seems that he treats us as dinner. Chu Tiannan sneered, stepped forward slightly, and kept Luo'er's delicate body behind him, although he was not adhering to masculinity at this time. But Chu Tiannan didn't need a girl to protect him. You go first, I'll lead it away. Luo'er spoke first with a giant lightsaber in hand, but Chu Tiannan frowned slightly and immediately refused. No, I will lead it away. I have confidence. You can't even beat me, no, it's too dangerous. Ow. While the two were secretly studying the countermeasures, the Earthbreaker didn't have the slightest patience. It roared excitedly, and its huge bare paws slammed on the ground, causing the ground to splash mud. Like a small mountain, it ruthlessly charged towards the two. Chu Tiannan and Luo'er almost retreated at the same time, and at the same time, while dodging the rampage of the Earth Splitter, the former slashed a sword fiercely in the opponent's abdomen. Roar! The Yintian sword is worthy of being a weapon that comes with the Devouring System. It is so sharp that it cuts a long wound on the Earth Splitter's powerful defensive body with ease. The blood flowed out immediately, which made the beast-level Earth Splitter roar angrily. Faced with a human being weaker than himself, he even hurt himself. What kind of insult is this? The defense is so strong. Chu Tiannan stepped back quickly. He didn't expect that he only scratched the ground bear's skin, but didn't hurt its root. He was a little dissatisfied. If someone knew that a peak-level martial artist could easily injure the Earth Splitter, there must be at least a strong martial artist who would frantically plunder the weapons in his hands. Roar! Earth Splitter's ferocious eyes locked onto Chu Tiannan, who was holding a dark golden long sword, let out an angry growl, and rushed like a train. He culled and went away. Yes, exactly. Seeing that the Earth Splitter was chasing and killing him without hesitation, Chu Tiannan sneered, and then used his agile figure to jump up the tree and keep running away. The Earth Splitter kept destroying the trees that Chu Tiannan passed by on the ground, and the scene was extremely chaotic for a while. This guy, why do you like to be brave so much? Luo Air followed up with a giant sword in her hand. Her brows were tightly frowned. Naturally, she was a little worried about Chu Tiannan's situation. Unless the latter can completely shake off the earth-splitting bear, the result is really hard to say. Although she was somewhat dissatisfied with Chu Tiannan's nonsense, Luo Air felt a little warm in her heart. After all, she knew what the other party wanted to do. However, it's still too brazen. Luo Air followed closely behind the Earth Splitter, and she was ready to attack at any time. Once Chu Tiannan couldn't hold on anymore, she would not hesitate to use her strongest sword again. Boom! In the mountains and forests, there were violent vibrations from time to time, and those seemingly thick trees were in front of the groundcracker bear. But it didn't have any ability to resist at all. Either it was broken by the savage collision, or it was crushed. Many beast-level monsters were scared away, for fear of harming the fish pond. While the Earth Splitter was frantically chasing it, there was a figure in black in front of him, nimbly shuttling from tree to tree. Doesn't this bastard know how tired he is? After fleeing for a full hour, Chu Tiannan felt that his physical strength had been consumed a lot, and even his speed was a little slower than at the beginning. It can't go on like this. Chu Tiannan looked at the denser forest ahead. A flash of light flashed in his mind, and he sneered and looked back. Just do it. Boom. At that time, when the Earth Splitter savagely slams into a larger tree, the surrounding small trees collapse towards it in an instant. Pooh-pooh. With its sharp claws and powerful bear paws, the Earth Splitter was able to tear open these trees with its bare hands. It was truly terrifying. Roar. However, because of this delay, it found that the target it was chasing had disappeared, and it couldn't help roaring for a while, and the roar resounded through the surrounding forests, and it lasted for a long time. Squeak boom. In the quiet mountain forest, the Earth Splitter crushed a fragile tree on the ground in an instant, making a heart-shattering sound, and scanned the surroundings with a pair of violent eyes. Whenever there is a slight disturbance, it will cause it to attack like a storm. A monster with the level of a beast general will not be low in intelligence. It knows that Chu Tiannan has not left this dense forest. Instead, it hid somewhere, and what the Earth Splitter had to do was to search slowly. Find this hateful human being who has low strength but can hurt himself, then tear it apart. Where did the people go? At that time, Luo Air followed the Earth Splitter and naturally came here. Looking at the denser forest ahead, Lu frowned slightly. The detector is broken. I haven't logged into the friend function with him yet, so I can't find the location. This is troublesome. So, the girl withdrew her lightsaber and made a detour quietly. Using her flexible body for a while, she finally got ahead of the Earth Splitter bear. Where did the person go? Luo Air carefully looked for Chu Tiannan's figure, but also paid attention to the movements of the Earth Splitter. As long as there is a slight disturbance, you will definitely know. Squeak. When Luo Air was looking for it carefully, she seemed to have stepped on something, so scared that she hurriedly moved away, only to see a little silver wolf staring at the beautiful girl in front of her with big watery eyes. At this moment, Luo Air's delicate body was stiff in place, and a trace of sweat was streaming down her bright forehead. She never thought that she would be so unlucky that she would be able to meet a monster cub here. Woo! It may be that a human appeared suddenly, and the silver wolf cub uttered a frightened cry, as if calling for something. Although the voice was thin, it could travel farther. Broken. Luo Air was anxious, so she quickly moved her figure to retreat because she vaguely heard the sound of a heavy figure moving on the hillside above, and the ground shook. It's unlucky. Luo Air didn't expect this scene to happen, and she was extremely anxious. She kept shuttling through the dense forest, but because of the rugged road, but slowed her down a lot. The Earth Splitter naturally discovered the girl who was traveling with Chu Tiannan, roared excitedly, and rushed like a train at an incomparably fast speed. Seeing that the distance between the two is getting closer and closer, the situation is extremely urgent, and Luo Air still gritted his teeth and insisted on running away. After all, he was caught by the Earth Splitter, and his fate was too miserable. At this extremely urgent moment, Seeing the distance between the Earth Splitter and him getting closer, Luo Air did not give up at all. Who? At the same time, a powerful big hand directly grabbed Luo's slender arm, and then with a sudden force, the girl fell to the side with an exclamation. "Shut up!" A familiar voice made Luo, who was still struggling, to freeze for an instant, and there was a hint of surprise in her beautiful eyes. "If we don't run, let's hide here, looking for death?" Seeing Luo in Chu Tiannan's arms in the narrow space on the reverse slope of the hillside, he said eagerly, regardless of his shyness. "Don't worry, look carefully." Chu Tiannan made a silent gesture and said with a smile, before Luo Air could be puzzled, he was surprised to see not far away. Several silver figures quietly appeared, forming an encircling circle, gradually forced to go to the ground, splitting bare. This is... When Luo's beautiful eyes saw the group of monsters above, she couldn't help but exclaimed in a low voice, "Silver Moon Wolf? Does she know what the Silver Moon Wolf means?" It is one of the most united groups of monsters among monsters, and the strength is generally comparable to that of the martial artist class, an extremely difficult monster. It can also be called the nightmare of low-level human warriors, and the possibility of surviving the encounter is very low. "You actually know that this is the territory of the Inuit wolves?" The girl asked with a hint of surprise in her beautiful eyes. "I don't know. Anyway, this deep forest is quite quiet. I think there should be a way." Chu Tiannan looked carefully at the Inuit wolves above and said in a low voice, "I didn't see it. You're pretty smart." "What?" Just when the two left quietly, the Earth Splitter on the hillside naturally found the former, roared violently, and wanted to pursue him, but was surrounded by several junior beast generals and silver moon wolves. Boom! Facing several opponents of the same level, the Earth Splitter came up and beat a cold silver moon wolf into the air, instantly angering all the silver moon wolves. All the silver moon wolves were slaughtered frantically, and the Earth Breaker finally saw that something was wrong. He wanted to escape, but it was too late. It is conceivable that the ending of this ground-splitting bear must be extremely tragic. I do not know how long it has been. After the two finally walked out of the forest, Chu Tiannan was sweating coldly when he recalled the shocking moment before. It's a pity that a general-level monster can't swallow it. After calming down, Chu Tiannan shook his head slightly, muttering in his heart, "Host, swallowing can only be monsters, enemies, or others that you kill with your own hands. Anything that you don't kill with your own hands cannot be swallowed by a strand." At the same time, the system's voice sounded in Chu Tiannan's mind, which made the latter startled, and then shook his head and smiled. "I knew that this devouring couldn't be so heaven-defying, otherwise I would hide and find a place to devour madly, and I would have been at the martial god level." Dark night. In a monastery hidden in the mountains, a bonfire was lit in the church. Chu Tiannan was adding dry firewood to it boredly, while Luo Air was sitting on a chair with his knees folded, not knowing what to think. The atmosphere is really quiet. "Hello." Luo Air was the first to speak in the end. "What's wrong?" Chu Tiannan looked at the other party. "Which warrior academy are you from?" The girl looked at Chu Tiannan with bright eyes and asked softly, "I'm not from any martial arts academy. I'm just an ordinary person, believe it." Chu Tiannan shook his head slightly. He is a soul traveler, and he almost died before he fully understood the world, so he didn't have time to know anything else. Regarding this, Luo Air did not continue to ask further questions. After all, she could tell that Chu Tiannan seemed to be self-taught and did not have a thorough cultivation system. At least Chu Tiannan, as a high-level warrior, did not learn combat secrets, which surprised her. "Are you from the base city of East China too?" This time it was Chu Tiannan who spoke. He really wanted to know, what kind of big family can afford to drink B-level recovery agent? Does the family have mines? "I count it." "What do you mean?" Chu Tiannan raised his eyebrows and couldn't help asking. "I was vacationing in the base city in East China." Who would have thought that the base city, which has been safe and sound for 100 years, would be breached by monsters, and I am unlucky to be in the center of the base. Luo said casually and jumped onto the beam. I'm sleepy. It's your turn to watch the night today. It sounds like you were on vigil yesterday. The corner of Chu Tiannan's mouth twitched slightly, and he sat in front of the bonfire and began to practice cross-legged. Looking at the young figure earnestly cultivating below, Luo Air's jewel-like bright eyes flashed a special look, and the corner of his mouth smiled slightly, making the surrounding light much dimmed. Such a dreadful life lasted for another 3 days. Compared to before, Chu Tiannan found that being accompanied by a beautiful woman added a lot of vitality to breaking the boring journey. It's just that they are in trouble again now, real trouble. Drive faster. At this time, on the expressway, an off-road vehicle sped past, savagely knocked over the overturned vehicle, and sped forward. And in the rear, there are several huge figures of rhino horns following them. The number is frighteningly large. It's really unlucky. I didn't expect that I just got out of the tiger's den and then into the wolf's mouth. Chu Tiannan sat in the co-pilot, worriedly staring at Luo Air, who was concentrating on driving, and at the same time looking at the monster chasing wildly behind, and said with a wry smile, "A big man can't even drive." The answer to Chu Tiannan was only a cold sarcasm. "I don't have the money to buy a car." Chu Tiannan rolled his eyes. The previous owner of his body was so poor that he even rented his own room. Buying a car? Be careful, they are catching up. Chu Tiannan reminded. Sit still. At this moment, Luo Air was like an incarnation of an old driver, and he stepped on the floor oil when driving. The speed of the car soared to the extreme in an instant, and the whole body was a little floaty, but the effect was also remarkable. That is to create a certain distance from the iron horn rhino that is chasing after it. As for Chu Tiannan, who was watching in cold sweat, his heart was twitching. Looking at Luo Air, he recognized a truth in his heart. In society, you, Sister Luo, can't be provoked. Watch out to the left. Careful to the right. There are monsters ahead. Change lanes. Sitting in the co-pilot, Chu Tiannan, as Luo Air's second pair of eyes, naturally reminds the surrounding road conditions all the time. And Luo Air also turned into an old driver and calmly shuttled among the monsters. It's lively now. On the highway, an off-road vehicle is galloping ahead. Behind them are all kinds of monsters besieging and killing wildly. And now it's not just a group of iron horned rhinos. The group of demon cats, group of hyenas, and even monsters in the form of sloths all insisted on lying forward. The scene was once quite spectacular. Damn it! Which team is this that dares to attract a large number of monsters? At this time, on a high ground in the wild area, several figures looked at the spectacular scene on the road through binoculars and said in amazement, "Could it be a Wuzone-level team? Do you want to give these monsters a pot?" One of the thin men was holding a binoculars, also stunned. There are hundreds of monsters here, and nearly half of them are general-level monsters. Hey, they're all generous. We can't afford to provoke such a battle, so we just watch the excitement. Another burly figure also held a telescope, as if watching a blockbuster movie, and couldn't help sighing. There is no distress signal displayed on the detector. It is obviously a purposeful attraction. Let's go. Even if we want to get a share of this kind of battle, we don't have the strength. If we go, we will die. How could their warrior team know that the off-road vehicle on the road was actually running for their lives? It's really annoying. The smart bracelet is broken, and there is no way to send a distress signal. At this moment, Luo Erliu frowned. If she hadn't been very educated, she would almost not be able to resist cursing. It's okay, before the accident, I knew that the base city in South China is not far from here. I believe I can get there today. Chu Tiannan's memory is amazing. Even if he can't see the map, he can still know the route. I know, but there is an urgent matter now. Luo Air kept turning the steering wheel and said, "The car is almost out of gas." Hearing this, Chu Tiannan froze. This was a very embarrassing question. Quickly rushing out of the expressway, the off-road vehicle seemed to be taking a shortcut and climbing over the nearby hillside. Look, base city. Although the car was almost out of gas, when Chu Tiannan saw the huge city in the distance, he was pleasantly surprised. In the far distance between the two, there is a huge city like a sleeping monster, located there. The huge wall can block the impact of all huge monsters. On the wall, there are one after another mechanical weapons with a cold light. Immediately, this huge base city was filled with a sense of security. Sit still. Luo gritted her teeth lightly and raised the horsepower to the biggest party. Such a flat land is naturally more convenient for vehicles to move forward, and it seems that it is getting closer and closer to the base city. There are still 8 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 1 kilometer. Great, we're safe. Seeing the base city close at hand, Luo was delighted. Such a frightening wild racing also made her physically and mentally exhausted. After all, she is only 17 years old, and Chu Tiannan could breathe a sigh of relief and came to the safest base city for human beings, and finally he didn't have to live the fearful life before. We are saved. Before Chu Tiannan finished speaking, he felt dizzy in his head. Then came the pain. Boom! At this moment, the off-road vehicle seemed to have received a huge impact and rolled over without any suspense. The off-road vehicle rolled several times in midair and finally hit the ground hard, leaving a shocking long mark. Danger! Please host a flee immediately. Inside the off-road vehicle, Chu Tiannan could only feel his mind spinning, and the system's notification sounded at the same time. After all, Chu Tiannan's soul strength was extremely high, and after a short period of dizziness, he woke up instantly. Regardless of the broken ribs, he quickly climbed out of the car, pulled the injured girl in yellow out of the car, and said anxiously, Luo, are you all right? At this moment, there was a trace of blood running down Luo's forehead, and he was in a semi-conscious state. Combat power is almost zero. Leave me alone, I can't leave. Luo's voice was weak at this time, obviously injured seriously. She knew that she was bound to die, so she pushed Chu Tiannan away with her spare strength. Run, or we'll all die here. You hold on. And Chu Tiannan endured the pain in his abdomen and directly carried it on his back. Time is life, and he does not allow the slightest waste. Now it's time to compete with the god of death. Put me down. Take me. You can't run far. Luo still struggled slightly, feeling the shoulders that were not broad. She didn't want to hurt her partner because of herself. Stop fucking nonsense. Accompanied by Chu Tiannan's scolding, the girl on the back turned out to be much more honest. Seeing that the other party was not struggling, Chu Tiannan tied the two together tightly with his belt and continued on his way. Let Chu Tiannan give up his partner. He will never be able to do this. Roar. At the same time, the behemoth that knocked over the off-road vehicle roared loudly. Those eyes, as if looking at prey, burst out with a little excitement. Hearing the sound, Chu Tiannan couldn't help but look back, his pupils suddenly constricted. Roar! The huge figure roared loudly, and the bursts of sound waves spread. Even Chu Tiannan, who was rushing ahead, was impressed. Damn it! It turned out to be an army-breaking beast. Chu Tiannan had the memory of his previous owner, so he naturally knew this kind of mass monster. The Pajuan beast belongs to the category of extremely destructive monsters. In terms of combat effectiveness, it may not be as strong as other monsters of the same level. But when it comes to crushing and breaking defenses, especially in attacking fortifications, it is purely a mobile siege machine. There are still 800 meters. Facing the Bay City, which was close at hand, Chu Tiannan gritted his teeth and persisted. He knew that as long as he entered the base city, even with countless monsters, there is no way to bite this huge monster. Roar! The Pajuan beast looked at the slow-moving figure in the distance with great interest and did not immediately pursue it. And there are monster beasts passing by one after another behind them. Their goal is very simple. It is to cruelly tear up the two figures in front of him. Quick! Quick! Facing the crazy pursuit of countless monsters, Chu Tiannan moved forward at full speed with Luo on his back. 700 m, 600 m. Seeing that the distance to the base city is getting closer, but the distance between the monster and the two is also getting shorter and shorter, finally at a distance of 300 meters. Two purple shadow cats attacked quickly, with sharp scratches, trying to tear Luo'er's fragile body apart. "Get out!" shouted violently. Chu Tiannan urged Yin Tianjian with his right hand, but found out in horror. The dark gold long sword did not appear in his hand as he wished. "Host, the time for your experience bonus has expired. Unless you advance to a junior martial artist, you cannot activate the Yin Tian sword." Grass. Chu Tiannan couldn't help scolding his mother at this moment because of his extremely calm and steady personality. Seeing that the two purple shadow cats were about to get close, his gums were tense. He turned around and punched hard, hitting one of the purple shadow cats in the abdomen immediately, knocking it back. On the other side, Chu Tiannan took out Luo'er's black sword hilt pinned to his slender waist. The giant red blade was released suddenly, beheading the other purple shadow cat in front of him without hesitation. Facing the purple shadow cat, who was only a low-level B soldier, Chu Tiannan thought that he didn't need the Yin Tian sword, and he could kill it. Not good. However, the good times didn't last long. Chu Tiannan had just beheaded two purple shadow cats and advanced a distance of nearly 50 meters, but was entangled by several other monsters. Puff, puff. Go to hell. At this moment, Chu Tiannan was completely insane. In order to survive and prevent the girl behind him from being hurt, he kept waving the lightsaber in his hand. One after another, the monsters were beheaded by the youth in black one by one. However, there are too many monsters, and behind them there are iron-horned rhinos with slow impact speed but amazing fighting power. Chu Tiannan knew that he had to take the opportunity to break out, once he was surrounded by powerful monsters behind him. That is really desperate. On one side are a large number of monsters encircling, and on the other side is the besieged city of the base city that is close at hand. Persevere. We will soon reach the safety zone. Chu Tiannan's gums were bleeding from biting his teeth. His body's potential was fully developed, and his hands rose and fell almost every second. There will always be a corpse of a monster. Don't insist. If you don't give up on me, you will die too. Luo'er's weak voice came from behind the young man. Naturally, it was difficult for her to see that the other party was constantly resisting the encirclement of the surrounding monsters, and she felt distressed in her heart. It was only now that Luo'er really began to integrate Chu Tiannan into her heart and did not care about anything else. It's because the other party is neither relative nor relative, although they are partners, but this kind of life and death together is really rare. Especially in this desperate situation, as long as Chu Tiannan leaves her behind and quickly flees to the base city, he will be safe and sound. But Chu Tiannan stubbornly chose to live and die with her. This kind of emotion can only be experienced if it is truly experienced. I will definitely be able to lead you to live. Chu Tiannan kept dancing with the lightsaber in his hand, and after beheading a fleeing dog, he stepped on the opponent's back and jumped, and came to Gao per reverse incline. Roar! More and more monsters encircled him, and Chu Tiannan's killing speed was not as fast as that of the monsters encircling them, seeing that the back road was about to be blocked. But Chu Tiannan was still crazily breaking through. Puff! From time to time, a scar was drawn on the arm by sharp claws, but Chu Tiannan gritted his teeth and persisted. His thigh was injured, but Chu Tiannan didn't cry out. After beheading several monsters in a row, he took advantage of the height of the corpses of monsters and stepped on them to jump up. Base City. In the last 150 meters, Chu Tiannan seemed to see the hope of his life. Boom! However, things were not that simple. A pitch-black phantom rushed towards Chu Tiannan at an extremely fast speed and finally slammed into Chu Tiannan's abdomen. Puff! Chu Tiannan couldn't bear the damage caused by the huge impact. He sprayed blood directly and finally fell in front of Gao Pa. Ahem! Chu Tiannan knew that his chance was gone, because he felt bitter when he saw the wolf staring at him. Did it fail after all? I'm sorry, I tried my best. At this time, the world seemed to be quiet, and Chu Tiannan's eyes dimmed when he saw a large number of monsters plunging in the distance ahead. Puff, puff, puff. Seeing that many monsters were about to engulf the two figures, several figures burst out like laser beams on the high slope. The one who bears the brunt is the nearest demon wolf, which instantly turns into a sieve. Accompanied by the large-scale sweep of the laser, it finally penetrated the bodies of many monsters. At this moment, nearly half of the group of monsters became dead souls under the terrifying laser light. Clang, clang. It was the sound of mechanical mobilization. On the high slope behind Chu Tiannan, there were neat rows of armed men, armed with hot weapons, coldly confronting the group of demon beasts that had stopped, and the chorus was loud. China League Army, stop resisting. China League Army, stop resisting. Facing the swarming army, the chilling majesty and thrilling laser weapons made the monsters who had been aggressively attacking stop in their tracks. Ow! Seeing the arrival of the human army, Pajun Beast knew that it was impossible to kill the two young humans, so he ordered the low-level monsters to retreat slowly. Roar well. The low-intelligence beast soldiers received orders from high-level monsters. Although they were a little unwilling, they did not dare to disobey them, and they slowly receded like a tide. Are you saved? Chu Tiannan saw that the group of monsters had receded, and it was impossible for him not to be excited. After all, no one is willing to die. This kind of survival after a catastrophe makes Chu Tiannan cherish the chance of living even more. Poor Chu Tiannan is like a blood man walking out of a pool of blood at this time. There is no sign of safety on his body. Luoer, we are saved. Chu Tiannan put the girl down, feeling extremely relaxed, but the drowsiness came quickly like a raging tide. Finally fell down suddenly. Chu Tiannan, Luoer, who was weak, was startled when he saw this, and sat on the ground hugging the young man's head. Fortunately, I was just tired and fell asleep. Feeling the young man's even breathing, Luoer heaved a sigh of relief. Her beautiful eyes looked at the face in front of her who was not handsome, but quite attractive. Carefully protected in your arms. In an unknown room, there are some molds of various weapons and defense equipment, and there's also a training field that is not young, where there are various trial opponents. Of course, these are just dummies for training, not life. Boom, boom. In the quiet training room, one blow after another, accompanied by the explosive power of the body, ruthlessly bombarded these metal dummies, making a low-pitched sound. Sweat was pouring out wantonly, but the young man was training tirelessly because he came too early, so there was no one in the training room. The strength is enough, but the speed is not enough. Chu Tiannan continued to explode with his strongest strength and speed, and punched the trial dummy fiercely. This punch could instantly kill a low-level beast soldier-level monster, but didn't leave the slightest trace on the trial dummy. It's a pity. I haven't practiced for a short time. I guess there's still a long way to go before I want to become a martial artist. After the training, Chu Tiannan simply washed off the sweat on his body, then changed into a fresh student uniform, glanced at the smart bracelet, and said, "It's almost time to leave. There will be more people in a while." A month ago, after Chu Tiannan and Luoer were rescued, when the former woke up, he was already lying in the Warrior Academy in the base city of South China. Hesitant Chu Tiannan originally belonged to the East China base city, but because the original base city was destroyed, he finally decided to let him live in the Warrior Academy. As long as Chu Tiannan becomes a warrior, he is eligible to receive a house in the base city of South China. Through the smart bracelet, Chu Tiannan learned that in this world, the status of a warrior is the highest, and no profession is as honorable as a warrior. Because warriors are the last line of defense for human beings, guarding human beings, their status is naturally not low, and high-level warriors have a more respected status. All in all, in this world, every human being will aim to become a warrior. Whether it is the Huaxiao Alliance, the European Union, or even the powerful American Alliance, they're all trying their best to control the power of warriors. Walking out of the training room, Chu Tiannan looked at the bright sunshine outside, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. When I become a martial artist, I will participate in the martial artist assessment. In this case, I will have the Yin Tian sword in my hand, and I will be almost invincible at the same level. Chu Tiannan knew that he was a high-level martial artist, so he could directly apply for a martial artist ID card, but he chose to keep a low profile. In the face of lack of strength, he should not be too aggressive. Young man, it's so early. At the same time, the middle-aged man in charge of the guard greeted Chu Tiannan with a smile. Well, I still have something to do. See you later, uncle. Chu Tiannan also nodded with a smile and left directly. Why does this kid always train before the opening of the training room, but no longer use it after opening? Watching the young man leave, the middle-aged man shook his head slightly and continued to read his newspaper. Worthy of being a student of a martial arts academy, everyone has a weird personality. Walking at the gate of the martial arts academy, Chu Tiannan changed back into his black clothes, and a sharp aura emerged from his whole body. Oh, I don't have any money, so I still have to work part-time. Chu Tiannan shook his head slightly. There was no way for him to belong to the state to support him now. If it weren't for the fact that he had successfully escaped from a herd of monsters in the outskirts of the base city in South China, he might not have been sent to the Martial Artist Academy by the local authorities. As for Chu Tiannan's strength, no one was going to test it, which also gave him a lot of room for improvement. After all, who would doubt an ordinary young man? But Luo Air was sent away specially. It is said that someone picked her up. Chu Tiannan felt relieved when he heard about it. And, while waiting for the car, Chu Tiannan noticed that someone was looking at him, so he took advantage of the situation to look back. I saw a young man dressed luxuriously. He looked like a kid from a rich family. His eyes and the sunglasses naturally noticed Chu Tiannan, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. It seems to disdain. Luo Ji. Looking at the superior young man, Chu Tiannan ignored the other party's disdain and sneered in his heart. Chu Tiannan knew why the other party was targeting him, because Luo Ji was the top student in his grade before, but in a strength test. Chu Tiannan obviously felt that he had already controlled his strength, but in terms of explosive power, he was still slightly stronger than Luo Ji. As the son of a rich family who is a senior student, Luo Ji's arrogance is well known to everyone. In addition, he already has the level of a senior student at a young age. Even the instructors of the Warrior Academy know it. Within a year, Luo Ji will definitely become a warrior. However, because of Chu Tiannan's carelessness, the halo of this genius student, the third grade group of the entire martial arts academy, now has another senior student again. There are already 6 senior students in the entire martial arts academy, but the other 5 are not low in status. Only Chu Tiannan is an ordinary young man who even needs to work part-time in his daily life. When Luo Ji knew that Chu Tiannan was slightly stronger than him during the test, of course the latter was secretly unhappy and resentful. Boring. Chu Tiannan ignored those disdainful eyes and directly got into a taxi and left. Brother Luo, what are you looking at? At the same time, there were 2 more youths beside the young man in sunglasses. They were all Luo Ji's friends, and they also saw Chu Tiannan getting into the car. A new guy doesn't know the heights of the heavens and the earth, and a test is nothing. With your physical fitness, Luo Ge, you can easily knock him down. Why affect your mood because of a waste? One of the burly men sneered. That's right, a test can't explain anything at all. When the time for the warrior assessment comes, that kid will understand how big the gap is between him and you. Brother Luo. Another thin man pushed the mirror frame, also disdainful. If a freshman pops up at random, he will be at the level of a senior student. Luo Ji's face softened a lot when he heard this, and he sneered as soon as he thought about it. This probability is too outrageous. It is estimated that he is close to a senior student. Find a chance and try him. The reason why Luo Ji targeted was that the other senior students were also from rich families, but this Chu Tiannan had no background and even had strength similar to them. Of course, it made him feel unbalanced. If it wasn't for the ban on fighting in the academy, he would have wanted to trouble Chu Tiannan a long time ago. Poor Chu Tiannan didn't do anything, but offended one of the 5 big brothers of the Warrior Academy, and even offended the most narrow-minded Luo Ji. In the car, Chu Tiannan looked at the part-time job advertisements around him, recalled the previous scene, and shook his head slightly. It's all because I was careless before. I originally wanted to become a martial artist in a low-key manner. I hope you don't provoke me. Otherwise, I don't mind making him regret it. Obviously, at Chu Tiannan's level, he really doesn't pay attention to so-called senior students like Luo Ji. In Chu Tiannan's view, a group of guys who have never even experienced life and death. How much combat power can erupt? The afternoon was devoted to knowledge class explanations in the Warrior Academy, and of course Chu Tiannan was also included in the classroom. There are only 30 people in the entire classroom, after all, whether it is the Huameng or the whole world. The conditions for becoming a martial artist are too harsh, which also lead to the fact that the number of ordinary people is still much higher than that of martial artists. This is also the reason why the number of students is small. Chu Tiannan was bored looking at the multimedia in front of him, but his mind was elsewhere. I don't know how she is now. Ever since he narrowly escaped death some time ago, Chu Tiannan knew that Luo Air had been picked up after waking up, so he didn't take a look at him in the end, feeling somewhat regretful. Forget it, I'll go find her again when I stand firm. The earth is so big, it's not easy to find someone. Thinking of these things in his heart, Chu Tiannan felt drowsy while listening to the class. In his opinion, it is better to go to the training hall to improve his strength. Students, please excuse me. At the same time, a calm voice sounded from the door, and all the students heard it and looked. I saw a college director walk into the classroom, looked at the young students, and said with a smile, "Our South China base, Shenan District Martial Arts Academy, has another transfer student coming to our senior class 3 today. Welcome, everyone." As he spoke, the school director with a big belly waved to the outside. "Come in." Originally, Chu Tiannan didn't have any intention to look, but when everyone was amazed, he couldn't help but look around. It doesn't matter if you look at it. It really gave Chu Tiannan a jump. When Chu Tiannan saw clearly the elegant and refined figure walking on the podium, he murmured in his heart, "No, I saw a beautiful figure in a yellow dress walking on the podium. That beautiful face made the girls under the stage feel sad and made the boys crazy, smiling politely. My name is Luo and I hope to get along well with everyone in the next year." It has to be said that Luo really has a very high-end quality of a girl. It seems that she was taught by noble etiquette. There is a special elegance in her manners and words. Coupled with that beautiful face, it really made the whole classroom a little sad. However, except for Chu Tiannan and a few girls, the other male students in the classroom were all ebullient, even crazy. One by one scrambling to introduce themselves. "Goddess, my name is Lu Peng. Nice to meet you. What's your number? Can I add you as a friend?" "Goddess, ignore him. My name is..." The whole classroom went crazy. Chu Tiannan looked at the girl on the stage and shook his head secretly. The lethality of a beautiful woman is great. At this time, a light cough sounded, and the surrounding voices suddenly became quieter. I saw a young man in white walking forward slowly, finally stopped in front of Luo stretched out his right hand gracefully, and said, "Miss Luo in Luo Ji, can I invite you to study with me? It will be a great honor for me." The voice is elegant, and the movements are quite elegant, since Luo Ji has spoken. The boys around who originally wanted to talk to Luo held back. After all, Luo Ji was too powerful to be provoked. Such a beauty is worthy of me. At the same time as the invitation, Luo Ji tried his best to show himself a gentleman, because from the first time Luo came in, he fell in love with Luo deeply. "Don't extricate yourself. You look like a dog." Chu Tiannan sneered in his heart. A guy who must report his flaws, love, knows etiquette. Facing Luo Ji's gentlemanly invitation, Luo also smiled politely, looked around with a pair of jewel-like eyes, and seemed to have found what she was interested in. So she directly skipped Luo Ji. "That's right, just skip it." The boy who was about to boo at first realized that something was wrong, especially when Luo directly skipped Luo Ji. He was even more stunned. And Luo Ji, who stretched out his right hand to invite, stood stiffly in place at this moment. Looking at his slightly trembling palm, he knew that he was very angry. "So, you actually ignored me?" Luo Ji was also a senior student with considerable talent, and being so ignored by Luo the arrogance in his heart would definitely make his face livid. I'd like to see who is more attractive than me. Tai Ching turned to Tai Ching. Luo Ji couldn't possibly get angry in front of everyone, and she was still a girl. He turned around and stared coldly, and the next second, it turned into astonishment. I saw Luo Air came directly to the last row. To be precise, she walked beside Chu Tiannan. And Chu Tiannan stood up early, staring blankly at the beautiful girl who was walking towards him, not knowing what to say. What? How long has it been since you didn't know me? Seeing the other party's stupid look, Luo Air burst into a smile, immediately making the surroundings glow, and even many boys were secretly jealous. This smile is different from the polite smile. It is Luo Air's smile from the heart. It was just a smile on the young man in front of him. Why didn't you tell me before you came? Chu Tiannan touched his nose, tried not to lose his composure, and said, I'll pick you up. I didn't intend to give you a surprise. Obviously, Luo Air's words were like meeting a good friend, but the voice was soft, which made the boys around who were already jealous even more angry. Won't you let me sit down? Looking at the silly young man in front of her, Luo Air's beautiful eyes were full of cunning. Sit, sit. Chu Tiannan subconsciously hurried out of the way, and Luo Air didn't have any taboos and sat directly next to the former, and the two became the same table. Murderous! Chu Tiannan finally came to his senses, looked around carefully, and saw the fierce eyes of the boys in the class, as if they were going to swallow the former alive. If eyes could kill, Chu Tiannan would be riddled with holes. Alas, it's hard to be outraged. Even so, the corner of Chu Tiannan's mouth twitched, and he sat down silently, recalling just now, he gave Luo Air a speechless look. This girl did it on purpose. Seeing what Chu Tiannan meant, Luo Air covered her mouth and smiled lightly, as if she was saying something in her bright eyes. I did on purpose. Chu Tiannan. When Luo Ji saw that Chu Tiannan and Luo Air were so close, he slowly clenched his hands into fists and made a squeak sound, roaring in his heart. I'm a kid from a rich family, but I can't compare to a poor boy who is nothing. Just wait, fight with me, and I'll let you know how ugly you're going to die. Chu Tiannan didn't know that he was completely hated by Luo Ji. But the only thing that made Chu Tiannan understand is that he has probably become the public enemy of boys now, and it is very likely that he belongs to the entire grade group. Although he was helpless in his heart, Chu Tiannan didn't care. For him, this small difficulty was insignificant compared to life and death, but anyone who dared to provoke him. I don't mind letting him doubt his life for a while. Since there is nothing else, everyone can continue with the class. When the school director left, the whole classroom was almost blown up. Hey, there's a good show this time. The goddess directly rejected Luo Ji and went to Chu Tiannan instead. It's probably going to be difficult for Chu Tiannan. After all, Luo Ji's family has a merchant business, and his father is a warrior. With such a background, Luo Ji will not let it go. Not necessarily. You didn't look at the goddess and went directly to Chu Tiannan. The relationship between the two must be unusual. Maybe this Chu Tiannan is a hidden rich second generation. Facing the whispered discussions around, Chu Tiannan shook his head and didn't care too much about it, if Luo Ji really didn't open his eyes to provoke him. Chu Tiannan doesn't mind teaching him how to behave. Gigi, at this time in the academy, fighting by force is strictly prohibited, even though Luo Ji's face was livid, even if there was a monstrous anger in his heart. Now he must be patient. Once he does something in the academy, the consequences will be serious. Chu Tiannan, okay? You asked for it. Luo Ji stiffly sat back in his seat, roaring wildly in his heart. After class, Chu Tiannan stood up, stretched, and let out a long breath. This torture-filled knowledge class is finally over, he said, looking at the girl in yellow who was sitting quietly next to him. How did you find me here? It's easy to find if you have intelligence. I just need to know your name. Luo Air put away a few books and immediately blushed slightly and said softly, Want to go out for a walk? I'll go to training later. After Chu Tiannan finished speaking, he instantly felt the surrounding space filled with a faint killing intent, held the next sentence in his stomach, and nodded seriously. Go. That's right. Hearing the promise, Luo'er's eyes immediately turned into crescents. Chu Tiannan shook his head slightly and immediately followed the girl in yellow under the eyes of everyone envious and jealous. The two of them were walking on the path in the forest of the college, and some students passing by faced them, and they didn't take it seriously when they saw Chu Tiannan. However, when everyone saw Luo'er, their eyes lit up. After all, such a beauty is really a beautiful landscape. Of course, even so, there was still a lot of discussion, and news spread quietly in the academy. Why haven't I seen this girl? Who is she? Her name is Luo'er. She is a new student. Her strength is unknown, but she is beautiful. It doesn't matter who she is now, because this Luo'er only has a good relationship with this Chu Tiannan. Chu Tiannan? Have you never heard of such a person? How can he be qualified to be this kind of girl? Luo won't be jealous. Don't mention it. Luo has been ignored in public, and Luo'er doesn't care about him at all. What? As an important place for cultivating future warriors, the Warrior Academy naturally occupies a surprisingly large area. Even if someone drives, it will take half a day to fully visit the entire academy. It seems that my coming has put you under a lot of pressure. Luo'er calmly said, seeing that there would be colleges staring at this place from time to time, but there was a hint of cunning in her beautiful eyes. If I still have pressure on them, I won't use the path of martial artist. Chu Tiannan shrugged, not caring at all. Oh, it seems that you are very confident. Luo'er looked sideways at the black-clothed young man beside her with beautiful eyes. For some reason, she found that the other party's martial artist level had not improved, but there was a certain momentum. This kind of momentum gave people a faint sense of oppression, but she knew that once this young man who seemed to be sunny made a move. How decisive is it to kill? Stop! Suddenly, a scolding sound full of anger came from behind. Chu Tiannan and the two of them heard the sound and turned around. I saw Luo walking with a few young people behind him. Except for Luo himself, who looked livid and cold, the others all sneered maliciously. Poor guy. You actually provoked Luo. It seems that Chu Tiannan will pay the price. Chu Tiannan quietly took a step forward, frowning slightly, and said, Is something wrong? On the other hand, Luo walked forward without saying a word and finally got close to the young man in black. Looking at Chu Tiannan's calm black eyes, and then at the girl in yellow beside him, he gritted his teeth and said, Leaving her, I will act as if nothing happened, and we will still be classmates in the future. Luo'er wanted to speak, but found that Chu Tiannan was standing in front of him impartially, but retracted the words when he reached his mouth and looked at the gloomy Luo with his beautiful eyes. Chu Tiannan already knew what Luo was talking about in his heart, especially when he heard the other party's threats. His expression was still calm. He looked at the gloomy Luo and said, Is there anything else? If there is nothing else, let's go first. After finishing speaking, Chu Tiannan was really stared at by everyone in astonishment. Turn around and leave with Luo'er.